Welcome back to Behind the Lines. We're talking about Major Dick Winters, and now joining Rebecca and myself, we have Larry Alexander. You're a journalist, you're an author, and boy, you met Dick, and you met him how?
Well, I met him through my job with the newspaper. When Band of Brothers was being aired on HBO, my boss at the time came up to me and said, you know, this guy's a local hero. Maybe you ought to do a story about him. So I tracked him down, finally. Wasn't always that easy. I tracked him down through Wild Bill Garnier, as a matter of fact. That's how I got in touch with Winters. And it was interesting because when I called him and we talked, and he knew where I was from, and he said one of the first things out of his mouth was, "I'm from Ephrata," which I didn't know, and that kind of made the bond right there, because he grew up. I asked him where he lived. He said East Fulton Street. I said, well, so did I. I grew up in East Fulton Street. He told me where, and I thought, my God, I saw that house every day of my life when I was growing up. And then we turned out we knew the same people. His aunt lived there. I knew her. And it just all went from there.
Wow. Tell me about This Is the First Book, Biggest Brother.
Yeah. That came about 2 years later. My boss, again, came up to me and said, you become pretty tight with Dick. Did you ever think about doing a book about his life? And first thing I thought was, no, that's imposing. That's imposing on our friendship. I didn't know how to do a book. A newspaper is far different than writing a book. And then so I let it drop for a little bit, and then I thought more about it, and I thought, well, you know, if I don't do it, after he's gone, someone may do it, and if they mess it up, that's his biography, and we're stuck with it. So I called Dick up. I said, here's the idea. Do you want to do it? If you do, fine. If you don't, we'll drop it right here. He said, let me think about it. Thought about it for a couple of days, called me back and said, come on up, and we'll do it. So I went up to his house. He gave me several milk crates of materials, notebooks containing pictures, battle reports, rosters, letters, all kinds of documents. He said, now you have what I gave to Ambrose. Then he gave me another book of letters from a woman named Diane Allman that he exchanged with this woman, Diane Allman, during the war. He said, now you have something they didn't have, which is the cusp of this. I mean, the thrust of this book is not what Dick Winters did, but what made him do it. What motivated him? Where did he come from? How did this man develop his sense of character and things like that? And how did he feel? And that's what's in the book, because the book explores up through the letters, which he says in those letters, things that he would never tell you in person. His daughter read those letters and said, I didn't know this man.
Wow. What did you learn through this experience?
It's tough. Being around Dick Winters, you learn he was a man of character, and I think that rubs off. You try to be like him. His guys respected him, I think, just because of who he was. He wasn't like them. But they tried to please him. They tried they learned from him, and you can learn character. He was a man of strong character, a man of strong willpower. I mean, he was a natural born leader. And when you sat around Dick, you felt that leadership, you felt that coming through. And you were comfortable with him. I think if you trusted him, he was a man who inspired trust.
That's one of the things that makes me feel like the monument in Ephrata is so important too, because he's not here as a person. And there's probably many people in the community of Ephrata who don't necessarily know that he was from here. And so to be able to use this monument to say, like, he grew up in this town and I can be like him, and as a means of telling the stories about what he was and what he stood for. I mean, the bottom line is he was inspirational.
Well, his mother grew up in a Mennonite home.
Okay.
His mother was Mennonite. She never joined the church. She married his father, who was not a Mennonite, but he still got a lot of that background from her. His respect for women, his respect for his sense of character, his honesty. I think it all came from the Mennonite tradition that he was subjected to from her. He had deep respect for his mother.
You wrote another book.
I wrote a couple of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other one I did on him was called In the Footsteps of Band of Brothers, where I actually I thought it would be so neat to go back and see where these guys were. I'd heard him talk about these places over and over again. I thought I really would like to see them. So I had the opportunity in 2008 to take one of his veterans, Forrest Guth, who was in 3rd Platoon, And we went over there and we traced their footsteps from Oldbourne, England, through Normandy and to Carentan and Breakcore Manor, where he won the Distinguished Service Cross, and all the way through Bastogne, Battle of the Bulge, into Holland, just to get a feel for the man and what he had to lead his guys through. And it was an eye-opening trip, because seeing it firsthand after hearing Dick's descriptions really put it all in perspective for me.
Yeah, it sure does. This is important to do, isn't it, Rebecca?
I think it is. I think it's important because Dick Winters wanted the story told, and through him it has been. But I think he also opened the door to honor all veterans and leaders like him. He recognized that he was just a kid when he went into World War II, and he was one of many leaders who stepped up and kept their men alive. And he never wanted it to be all about him, but at the end of the day, he was the one who got the story told. And so I think it's important for us to try to perpetuate that and tell the story and honor other veterans through the experience. Again, it's all about storytelling and keeping, there's an old Indian legend that says someone only dies when their story stops being told. And so I think we want to keep Dick Winters alive in Ephrata.
Yeah. What was this experience like, meeting him, writing about him?
It was probably one of the highlights of certainly my journalism career, but just of my life, because I thought this was the guy who's, even without the movie, without the book, he's the kind of guy who really inspires you. He didn't need the fame that came with the book to inspire people. All you had to do was talk to him, and I just think he had so many ways of affecting people, and always for the better. I don't know anybody who's ever met him who's been affected to the contrary.
Yeah, he was inspirational.
Yeah, no, I see the same thing. We were at a World War II event in Reading a couple of weeks ago, and people would come up and say, I served Dick coffee at the diner out in Hershey, and it was as if they served tea to the Queen of England, and that was, and I think he made everyone feel important too. And you could see that sense. They met this man for 5 seconds, and they felt like they had really made a connection with him. And I think he had that ability.
Where can we get these books quickly?
Most bookstores have them.
Amazon.
Amazon, Barnes & Noble online.
Right.
Through my website even. So.
All right, great. We can pick them up and read more. Thank you so much for writing and for coming here and telling us about it. More about Dick when we return. Stay with us.